January 23rd, 2021 council meeting into order. Mr. Hammond, would you lead us in the invocation?
Yes, sir. Definitely, Father, time of the year that we can most humbly give you all the praise and the glory for the past year. Heavenly Father, we pray that as the year 2020 is behind us, that we look at a bright future in 2021, and we pray that you'll be with each and every one. But most important, Heavenly Father, we ask that you put your healing hands on those, Heavenly Father, that are suffering from this dreadful disease and those that have lost loved ones due to this disease. We ask that you be with us as council and mayor, that we conduct the business of this town that you would see most pleasing and fitting. Now, these things we ask in your precious and holy name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Now, if you all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United
The
States of
United
America,
States of America. To
to
the
the
republic
republic
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all. Moving on, item 4, approve November 2nd, 2020 special call meeting minutes.
So
Council,
moved.
I take it that everyone, all right, we've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is that a second?
Mr. Savino seconded it.
Okay. It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I need by raising your right hand and stating aye.
Aye.
Item 5, approve the December 9th council meeting minutes. Council,
I make a motion that we accept and approve December the 9th town council meeting minutes.
I second
do
it.
we have a second? Okay. It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand and stating aye.
Aye.
Then item 6, approve the January 13th, 2021, tonight's meeting, approval of the council meeting agenda. Council,
Make a motion we approve tonight, the January 13th, 2020.
Second it.
second,
Second.
it's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand, stating aye.
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 All right. Now we're into old business. Item A, discussion and approval of amended contract for judge. Ms. Miller, I'll open it up for you for any discussion or explanation. The council offer up any questions, comments that we may have.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 2nd of 2020, council voted on the contract with the judge for 2 years. In that contract, he was to be paid a total of $27,350 per year. That consisted of $10,000 in salary paid to him on a monthly basis, plus health insurance. Since then, PIBA has decided that the judge does not qualify for health insurance. While the judge has actually put in a oh God, an appeal on that. Sorry, the words just leave me. We're still waiting on PIBA to decide whether they're going to reinstate him or not. But in the meantime, he's had to go out and get health insurance on his own because they canceled him as of January. So at this point, we're still in limbo, but we have a contract for 2 years in the amount of $27,350, regardless of how it's paid out. And because of that, we need to revise the contract to reflect what PIBA has done and to assure that the integrity of the contract as we agreed to for his compensation is continued. So I went and tried and did my own thing, but I'm not an attorney. So, finally, we were able to come to a conclusion today, and I sent you out the last draft this morning. And I apologize for that, but it's been really hard, and of course, Mr. Harvey has been ill, so I've tried to do it the best I can, but I want to make sure that we do it properly. And the document I sent you today is exactly what is going to say in the amendment. Does that help? Or do you have any questions?
Mr. Harvey, you agree with the document. I'm just asking as to the contract.
Mayor, the language of the contract is what it needs to be to meet the intention or the council's previously stated intention. The law requires you to have a contract with the judge, and it requires it to be 2 years long. And then it's a very simple language contract. Judge Ferry was participated in the preparing the language. There's a little provision in there that says if PIBA decides that his appeal is well taken, then it'll go back the way it was, and he'll be back on state health plan. So we won't have to come back and change the contract again if PIBA changes its mind.
I got a question for Mr. Marty, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Marty, so basically, we have no choice but to stick with this contract because we got 1 year left, right?
Well, your choice is to do this contract and keep your judge or get another judge.
But wouldn't it cause a problem if we do anything different from the contract? I mean, once you're in a contract, you're in a contract, right?
Well, but you've got the right to terminate the contract as well. I mean, you negotiated this contract with Judge Ferry because that's what his terms were for being your judge. Y'all have to decide, is it worth continuing being engaged with Judge Ferry? Out of pocket, you're not changing anything. It's the same amount. You were either paying his premiums plus the salary. Now you just writing him a check, and he's paying for his own insurance. It's not, from what I understand, there's no difference in the cash outlay that the town is paying.
My question, Mr. Harvey, if I'm understanding this correctly, if we signed a contract with him prior to PIBA coming back, PIBA had accepted it in the first instance, and now they are saying that he does not qualify, but we had a contractual agreement with him, and so if we terminate him without just cause, is there the potential for a lawsuit? I find no just cause to terminate Judge Ferry, nor do I want to.
Sure. Just cause
if
is
we
one
have
of those things
this contract.
Just cause is one of those things Hampton County lawyers seem to make a lot of money on.
I understand. Well, the way I view it is we have a contract with Judge Ferry. He has done nothing wrong. There is a interruption in understanding of qualification with PIBA. So And he is, as a lawyer, being a lawyer himself, he is, understands it, and he's fighting it along with you, objecting to it. But if we were to, we've already signed a contract, and if we don't make the corrections as needed, there's room and basis for an actual lawsuit if the judge felt like he wanted to do that.
Well, I mean, really and truly, your obligation is to provide him with insurance. And if you don't make arrangements to have him insurance or do some kind of accommodation so that he can get his own insurance and be held harmless, so to speak, then the town is in breach of the contract.
That's
what he's done is he could have said,
That's what
he could have said, okay, fine, y'all go get me an insurance. You're under an obligation to get me insurance. Go find me some. And instead, he went and got his own.
I feel like he's trying to facilitate to help us with this situation, which is no fault of our own, and no fault of his. And he has worked to try to help us right the situation, better the situation, and has given us time. Anyway, in discussions with the way the court system has been going, and the improvements that have been made from prior years, and talking with the chief, the chief told me he has worked very well with him. And that if there have been issues that, I understand he wanted to make sure they understood them. He wanted to, I'm just checking in to see, because I know that we had troubles years past. And now it looks like, we're doing a much better job. And we have someone that we're paying more, but we're getting more. And anyway, Ms. Miller, I see you have your hand raised.
I'm sorry. I want to sort of put this into context to a certain extent. The judge works approximately 1,100 hours per year for us. That is counted hours. That is not counting all of the on-call time that he has to remain at home. I mean, he can't go anywhere, which is most of the year, with the exception of 2 weeks a year when he takes a vacation. That's why we pay the alternate judge, okay? The magistrates are supposed to be paid for on-call time. PIBA does not recognize that, okay? But I did a sort of a scenario to find out how much are we actually paying this judge per hour? And the answer is $24.60 per hour. Most attorneys charge at least $200 an hour. If we were to try to compensate him at his rate, it would be $350 an hour. I think we're still getting a bargain. And to also put this into context, you mentioned that he's doing a good job. Yes, he is. If you look at your financial statements and you look at how many court fines have been collected year to date, we are at 67%, when we should be only at 50. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Mr. Howland?
I
don't know if you just had your pen up in the air.
Well, I was just comment on the fact that you asked the question that I was asked Mr. Marty about our contractual agreement. And the other thing I want to say, based on that information and based on the working relationship that he had with the police department and the clerk, and the simple fact, I've also, Ms. Miller, did my own research on what we're paying him based on what the average judge, municipal judge, our size would work. We're still coming out ahead. In regards to previous budget years, I went back and looked to see what we were paying, and actually the dollar amounts are right on point. So we're not gaining and we're not losing per se. We're right where we were before we had this issue with PIBA. So with that being said, I know it's probably early, for my opinion, but I feel it's in the best interest of us to stick with this contract with the new verbiage in section 6, because he is, I don't see any cause, because simply bottom line is PIBA told us one thing, they came back and told us something else, and this is what we're having to deal with. So that's just for whatever it's worth.
Thank you. Councilman, Ms. Bolden, Councilwoman Bolden.
Yeah, I just misunderstood what was being presented. I thought we were paying him an additional $10,000 onto what his salary was already, at the previous time, that we were adding $10,000 onto his salary to accommodate his insurance with PIBA.
No.
No,
So we're
the
not
way I
adding anything into his
understand it is
salary.
we basically is either it would be paid one way or the other through the town and PIBA is my understanding, or we pay straight out and he has his own. We're just compensating him because he no longer has insurance. And that was a part of the agreement. And without, when Ms. Miller sent the email that I approved, it was that I approve of, I wasn't approving it prior to talking to y'all. I was saying I approve of what we needed to do. Because going through it, I want to make sure that I understood everything correctly to protect the town, and I was in approval of it because of the situation. But of course, it takes a vote to amend this unless no one has had any argument. That's the reason the email was sent, to make sure everyone's always said that I'd make everyone completely aware of any changes, and would not do anything unless it was absolutely an emergency. But it's either we pay it, through state fund, which we do with all of our regular employees, or we take care of him, compensate him because he is doing it himself. PIBA, and the jury's still out. I mean, PIBA hadn't responded, and in my mind, if they haven't responded this, quickly, maybe they are having second guesses about what they have decided. But I don't know, and I don't want to speak on something that I can't speak for them. But hopefully they will reconsider. Mr. Hammond, one second, Mr. Hammond, Councilwoman Bolden, do you have any more questions?
And the reason why I was saying that is because the email that I received from Ms. Miller states that the judge has children that are covered by health insurance and cannot afford to let the insurance lapse. We have been paying him a total of $17,385 towards his health insurance all along. And I'm proposing to take the budget amount and add it to his salary instead, so he can pay for his portion of the health insurance he has obtained to replace PIBA. And she said the mayor has approved. His annual salary was increased from $10,000 to $27,385 as an amendment to his 2-year contract with it will be executed. So my thing was, I'm asking, are we adding $10,000 to his present salary now?
No.
No, ma'am. So he had a salary, and there was a cost that we covered, that we paid into PIBA. If I'm correct, Ms. Miller, why don't I'll let you speak on that.
Right.
The entire package was $10,000 as salary paid in monthly installments, plus health insurance coverage for him and his family. That health insurance costs $17,350 a year. So his total compensation package that we agreed to was $27,350 per year. We can't give him insurance. So we're not adding anything to the entire package in any way, form, or fashion. We're just not paying for his insurance. We're transferring that money we were paying for his insurance to a salaried amount. So it's the same exact thing that we have been paying all along. We're not adding anything else. The amount has not changed.
And his insurance actually is much more than that.
It's
We're not even covering.
$24,000 that he's paying in insurance.
Yeah, and so we're only covering 70% of that, 65% of that, but we're staying with the same amount that he has been getting paid. Nothing's changed on what we were actually paying. It is the same. I'm sorry, Miss Bolton.
I'm sorry, I'm just going by what I read. And it seemed as though to me we were adding to his salary. That's what that particular email was explaining to me, that we were adding on to what we were previously paying him. And if that was the case, I was against it, because we have other employees that we've had that went from full-time to part-time, and we didn't up their salary so they can go outside and pay an additional premium elsewhere. So if that's the case, no.
I mean, that's a very valid point. I'm glad that you brought that up. So, but you're understanding with what we're doing now, correct?
Yes, if that's what's, I'm going by what this letter says, this email says. And in this email, it says we are adding an additional amount. But if you're saying that's not what we're doing, then okay.
Or Miss Miller, I mean, that's what.
That is.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry if the email was misleading. Sometimes, when you're thinking in your head what you're saying, it may be taken differently by somebody else. We are not adding or changing anything. His entire package was $27,500. It still remains.
It was just a misunderstanding of literature. Mr. Hadwin, I know you're twitching the finger.
That's fine. You're fine. I was just gonna say I was in the same thinking as Ms. Bolden until I sat down and looked at our contract and what we had budgeted. And then the more I studied it and dissected it, I realized the dollar amounts were coming up the same. And then I realized what we were doing, instead of us paying directly the insurance to PIBA, because that's what we do with all the employees. We were taking what we would have paid PIBA in his insurance and adding that to his paycheck, his monthly paycheck. So you would take that total of 27,000 at this point, and you would divide it by the number of paychecks he's getting to allow him to pay for that insurance. And so once I got into it and I pulled some of our old documents that I keep storage like a pack rat, apparently, began to dissect it and got a better understanding. And so that's when I saw this new amendment or an agreement with the judge, and then it was right in line with what I was thinking prior to this meeting. So.
All right, Councilman Silent Savino, you got anything to add? You haven't said anything.
No, I wanted to let everybody else kind of get their opinions into it. I think I have a better understanding too. We're basically, it's no additional cost to the town. We're just changing cost from one bucket to a different bucket, no additional cost to the town. And kind of to echo what Mr. Hadwin said, the working relationship with the judge and the police chief and the rest of the the rest of the group has been well. So I don't see any reason that we're change course as far as from a judge perspective goes. And it's cost we've already planned to incur. So I don't see any cause for alarm. I've got a better understanding now that everybody's kind of asked those questions.
All right. Well, if all hearts and minds are clear and there are no other questions, I think that we're all on the same page. And take a motion for the approval of the amended contract for the judge.
Mr. May, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the amended contract for the municipal judge and give the mayor or the administrator or the mayor or his designee the authority to execute it if we need.
So motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so motion and properly seconded. All in favor, I need by raising your right hand and stating aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna oppose with that one, okay? I'm gonna stand alone on that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
One opposed.
Yeah.
Moving on to new business, department reports. Council, as always, since we've been dealing with Zoom, we don't have the department heads to give them. Are there any questions as far as the police department? And I'll start, as always, to my left, Mr. Savino.
Sir, I'll
Councilwoman Bolden,
No questions.
Councilman Hadwin,
None.
Councilwoman Solomon.
No questions, Mayor.
Okay. One thing that I do know is that we have lost a few officers, and I've spoken with the chief, and I'm going to talk to Ms. Miller, have him, I know Ms. Miller, if you have anything to add, I know that he has been searching, and that is something that we're going to have to give him and the officers some relief so that we can make sure that our citizens are protected. And Charles, you're doubled up.
I was trying to get a different computer.
He's playing with screens.
Anyway,
The battery is going to probably wind up dying.
well, anyway, I'm going to, allow this, not allow, but I think that Ms. Miller needs to work on that with the chief and to find out, we're gonna talk about the approval of the MOU later. But I just wanted to put that bug in the ear that he is interviewing. It has been difficult. He does have one candidate. He has another one that is not certified. That I told him, that they're, appreciate everything they're doing, and that we will try to help them in any way if they're able to find a certified candidate and they're ready to hire. Like I've stated before, I'm not trying to micromanage police department. I'm not a policeman. Chief has got one, and with Ms. Miller discussing with him if he passes, and the chief believes that he's certified, and if that's our budget, we need to have Ms. Miller bring that back to us so we can move forward. Anyway, is there any discussion on that? All right, well, we'll move on to safety and recreation. Has everyone had a chance to review that? Are there any questions or any discussion that needs to be had? Anything that needs to be taken back to that department by myself or Ms. Miller? All right. We'll now move on to fire department report. Has everyone had an opportunity to read this one? Now that we've got Mr. Hammond here, who's directly involved in the fire department. Mr. Hammond, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Ms. Bolden,
No questions.
Ms. Solomons?
No question, Mayor.
All right, moving on to public works, water, and wastewater. Does anyone have any discussion on these on this report?
Mm-mm. About halfway to-
All right, moving on. We got the administration report. We have our administrator here. So, is there anything you need to add, or is there anything you would like to fill us in on, Ms. Miller?
Yes, sir, I really would like to, if I may. The demolitions will start February 1st, the first round, which is good news.
Great.
And I want to thank publicly Randy Cruz and Rose, the county administrator, for working with us. And I wanted to let you know what the county has agreed to do for us. They will be waiving all of the permit fees for these demolitions, and that cost will be donated to the town as part of our match to that CDBG grant. There's 17 dwellings at $100 a pop. That's $1,700. On top of that, they are going to waive all the tipping fees at the landfill if they take everything they demolish to the landfill. And we'll be keeping track of that, and that also will go and be a donation to the town as part of our match. I'm very thankful.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am. And Dr. County Council on a few things over the past 2 weeks. We have a new chairman of the county council, which is Mr. Buddy Phillips, who would be the closest person to Estill since Mr. Virgin Johnson. And I've been talking with past chairman Bishop, Clay Bishop, Mr. Bishop. And I will get a few things to you, Ms. Miller, on this for another mural. And we've already got a location. Well, they've got a location and possibility for a second mural. I have someone coming out of Barnwell who's been questioning me about 6 months about this. She will donate everything for free, but they're asking for a little bit of help from Public Works. They're looking at the side of Harry's Car Care to do this mural, and it's part of the Arts Initiative. And Mr. Bishop's going to give me, I spoke with him again today. He's going to give me some more information. They're asking just for a little bit of help. It's something that he's seen. And I told him, I thought he's explained it to me, a way for people to work together, but also stay socially distanced during this time of this pandemic, and have the community participate as well in some of the painting. And they're just asking for a little bit of help from Public Works, and if there's any donation that we can actually add to help pay for a few of the supplies. I told them that we were very appreciative of the opportunity, and that we would, if they would get us, they're going to put the county is going to put $1,500 towards this. And if our Public Works could help them here and there, that would help, but also a small donation. And Ms. Miller, if you can look into what we could possibly afford, talking with Ms. Banner, then we'll come bring it back to council and try to move forward from there. And that's all I have. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Ms. Miller? Is there any questions for Ms. Miller as well?
I do have one more thing. It's not really a report, but I just want to remind y'all that we have to do that assessment, of our needs assessment for CDBG for this year. I heard a lot of the loud and clear things, infrastructure, of course, the COVID dollars, maybe broadband. I also am looking into the fire apparatus because we do service the county. So that brings our LMI down. And we definitely need a rescue truck yesterday. So those are the things that I would be putting on the list, but please, if you think of anything that you want to put on the list, send it to me so I can put one list together and put it on the next agenda. And we can all go ahead and agree to present that to Michelle Knight.
Okay, council, we've heard that's another thing we can add to that we can think about. And I'll talk to department heads and I'm sure Ms. Miller will. We'll see what we can find. We need to apply for whatever we can. Anyway, thank you, Ms. Miller, for all that you do. And that's it. We'll move on to new business. Item C, December 2020 income statement. Council, as always, I hope that everyone's had a chance to review this income statement and knows what the town's financial situation is, and always advise us to take this as information only. Are there any questions about this income statement for December 2020? To my left, Mr. Savino.
No, sir. No questions. Thank you.
Baldwin.
No questions.
Mr. Hadwin.
None.
Ms. Solomon.
No questions, Mayor.
All right, well, then this time I'll take a motion to accept December 2020 income statement as information only.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion that we accept December 2020 income statement as information only.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand and stating aye. Council, moving on to item D, approval of resolution 2021-02 declaring certain town property as surplus. Ms. Miller, do you have anything to add to this?
No, sir.
Is there any question or any discussion that needs to be had about this? To my left, Mr. Savino.
I'll just a quick question. It's probably for Mr. Harvey. And it's really just a box checking question for us. These items are weapons. So obviously the fact that they're off the street is a good thing. And I'm not necessarily trying to return them to their owners so they can do ill things with them. But is this the process that we need to go? Out of curiosity, I guess this is the process we need to go through to, quote, take possession of them and then, quote, declare them. What happens with these things afterward? Do we sell them or do we destroy them, or where do they wind up going?
Well, you got a number of questions there. First of all, you've got to presume that the police department have done everything they need to do to get to the point where the town actually has ownership of these weapons. Either the crimes have been, the people that were, the guns were taken from have been convicted, and the guns have been forfeited under the statute, or the people have waived their ownership rights or their right and desire to get the guns back. So the position that the town is in now is, okay, we've got these guns, what do we do with them? And your hands are tied. You can't do anything with them without selling them as surplus property. So that's what your resolution is now. Now, before anyone can take ownership of these guns, they still have to comply with federal and state laws with respect to passing background checks and anything else that's required. Just like you know, if you go to Bass Pro Shop and want to buy a shotgun, you still got to fill out the form and do everything like that. The town can't. There's no bypass around those laws. The town still has to comply with those laws before the ownership of these guns can be transferred to any member of the public that manages to be the successful bidder.
Ms.
Mr.
Miller, I
Mayor, if
saw
I may.
you had your hand raised, and I wanted to add one thing to what you just said, Mr. Marty. I know that having discussions with prior chiefs in the past, and I think that after a certain point, like everything is fulfilled the way you've talked about it. There are certain governmental programs for buyback, but also like Lawman's is who our police department's dealt with for the longest time, buying and selling, and they actually fit 100% of the criteria. It's one of the most heavily regulated because they basically deal with nothing but emergency services, law enforcement, police, that type of thing, and they have a buyback program. And I don't know the full extent, but I do know that I've heard that before, and that they are able to take guns that have been seized. That's what I've been told, at least. I'm not a lawyer. I have not researched it, but that's what I've been told by not just. I believe I've talked with. I don't believe I've talked with our current chief, but I've talked with our past chief, and two or three other chiefs before that about that. So you actually, when ordering other, new guns or vests or any type of gear that Lawman sells related to firearms equipment, artillery, that type of thing, they actually take that and they give them a credit. It may not be what the gun's actually worth, but it counts for something. They may get 50%, but otherwise it could take a year, 2 years, 3 years. But they are certified to the highest extent as a governmental weapons provider, if you will. Ms. Miller.
Mayor, yes, that's exactly right. And that's where the guns are going. We will trade them in. They will give us credit. We won't have to, we can't just go and sell them or whatever. I mean, it's better to do it this way, cleaner to do it this way.
Exactly.
And we get a credit and we can purchase other ammunition or whatever we need on that credit. And that's the way we've been doing it for years.
We can update our equipment, and it does not return guns to the streets, even though you have to, like Mr. Marty says, you have to go through, like you go to Bass Pro Shops to buy one, you're gonna have to go through the safety check and everything, but it still puts a gun back out there. And that's the way I understand it. So, Ms. Bolden, did you have a question?
No, sir, no questions.
All right, Mr. Hadwin.
None.
Councilwoman Solomon.
No questions, Mayor.
All right, well, if all hearts and minds are clear on that, we will move to approve resolution 2021-02 declaring certain town property as surplus. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Mayor, if I'm in order, I would like to make a motion for the approval of resolution 2021-02 declaring certain town property as surplus.
I second it.
It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving on. Item E, approval of the MOU with the Hampton County Sheriff Department for the provision of temporary as needed law enforcement services to the town. Council, as I stated earlier, I met with the chief last night. He wanted to discuss, he is short. He's also talked to me about this agreement. Um, I hope that everyone's had an opportunity to read this, but correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Miller, but it's a great opportunity. He has got this established relationship with the sheriff's department to where, if they can spare these gentlemen, these officers, men and women, will come over and help us with the service that we want to provide to keep our town people safe from every different angle. They've agreed upon $15 an hour, and we don't have to pay insurance, which is huge. I'll open the floor up for discussion. Are there any questions? As always, to my left, Ms. Savina.
I'll just be as quick as I can. I think, there's that list of guns right there. I mean, there's 40 guns on that list. Whether they got those off the streets last week or that's a lot of weapons that all police officers are dealing with. And I know we struggle to find officers. So I just think this is a step that I take and we can take all together to provide the police with the department with as much support as we can provide to them. They've been doing a really pretty good job just looking at the financial statements with payroll and overtime or whatnot. So just doing what we can do to help them out. So that's all I'd say.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Bolden.
I think it's a great idea because we're down so low and so many things are going on the street. So, I mean, it's a help out for them. So I'm so glad that the agreement is there and we can utilize them, that there's no complications with it. They agreed to it. So, and they're willing to work together as a team. So I have no problems with that at all.
This is a great tool. It's a great leap with our department and our chief, and I'm very grateful of him. This is something we haven't had in a while. I will say that they will get burned out if they don't have help, and this is an opportunity to fix a problem that there's no real clear solution to. And I think that it is a great step for us, and that the money involved in having to ask for help is fair. I wish that, we didn't have to have as many officers, but unfortunately that's the world we live in. Mr. Havlin, do you have anything to add?
Just to reiterate what Councilman Savino and Councilwoman Bolden has already stated, and of course yourself, this is a great opportunity for our police department and the sheriff's office to continue their working relationship. We need to commend the chief for getting out there and thinking out of the box, in addition to trying to help conserve overtime pay and keeping the officers safe while yet providing A1 service to the citizens who pay these taxes, and they deserve A1 service. And I think this is a good way to help us fill in that gap until we can get our own officers trained and on the streets to better assist the chief. But I also want to, in addition to the chief, I want to thank Ms. Miller for working with the chief to get this done so quickly, and working with the county administrator, Ms. Rose Dobson Elliott, and the sheriff in getting this where we can do this tonight. That's what teamwork does. They get together, they roll the sleeves up, they hash out the differences to a solution that everyone benefits. And this is a prime example of what that will do. And so kudos to everyone on the police department, the chief, Ms. Miller, Ms. Rose Dobson Elliott, and Sheriff T.C. Smalls for getting this done. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
When, if y'all make a motion, if you could please make the motion to approve Resolution 2021-03 and the MOU, I would greatly appreciate it.
So we're changing it. So it needs to be 2021 resolution 2021-03. Council, now Mayor Pro Tem Solomons, do you have anything to add? And I'll make sure before we motion if everyone is important.
Yes, I got a question and a statement. How many police officers do we have current at this time? Since
Either
Give me a
5 or
minute.
6.
Give me a
It's
minute.
either 5 or 6. I can't remember what they told me last night. And, you know, this time last year,
how many, Miss Miller?
it's 5. That's
We've
what I-
got 5, 2
Wow.
of which are part-time.
Out of the 5, 2 of them is part-time.
Yes, ma'am.
So this really
That
is a
are-
great idea. That's a
We
great
have 2
idea.
slots open is the bottom line. We've got 2 slots open that
So
need to be
you're
filled.
advertising for 2. Okay, so you're advertising for
We
2
have
officers?
been. We
Okay.
have been
and
advertising,
that's what
gosh,
I-
for months. I'm
And that's
sorry,
what I
Mayor.
stated when we first started, beginning of the meeting, is that we have a candidate. I know that Ms. Miller and
Yes.
and Chief Williams have been discussing making sure the correct evaluation has been done for this officer. He's not from this county. He has served with another county. He checks out. Except for one thing, it's not one more evaluation has to be done, from what I understand, but everything else he checks out. And there's a possibility that we may lose one of our reserves to, is it National Guard, Ms. Miller?
It's National
Mhm.
Guard. He's been called up
Mhm.
for a month. So
So-
we're another one down. So at this point, with this MOU in place, we can actually have somebody from the sheriff's department actually cover a full shift. I mean, they've been providing us with backup, don't get me wrong, but we need somebody on shift. So this will be temporarily until we can get our actual number of officers that are certified, ready to go. And it's also in place for the future. If something happens, we can still utilize this MOU to is not have to keep going back and back and back and redoing it.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll send us some of the officers that have already worked in the town that they now employ since they know the town so well, and they can help us do
That will-
patrolling.
So that
I
will
do
be a.
appreciate the county. I do appreciate the sheriff. I do appreciate Ms. Miller and our chief for working on this, because this is something that we need. And like, you know, Mr. Hadwin stated, if I can say something very corny, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. And this is where, you know, what we're trying to accomplish is to keep people in our town safe. And I commend everyone on this. Is there any other discussion that needs to be had? At this point, I will accept the motion to approve. This will be resolution 2021-03. The MOU with Hampton County Sheriff Department for the provision of temporary as needed law enforcement services to the town of Estill. Council, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-03 of the MOU with the Hampton County Sheriff for the provision of temporary as needed law enforcement services to the town.
I second it.
It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I need by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Motion carries. Now we will be moving on to item F on the new business, which is discussion related to seating of planning commission. Ms. Miller.
Yes, Mayor. A while back, we had discussed that, we need to seat a planning commission and maybe a historical board. But of the utmost importance right now, I would recommend that we seat a planning commission and get them educated. They have to go through training, same as the BZA did, and get them started, because truthfully, we've got some things that are coming in the pike, and we're going to have them seated if we're going to get any new development here. So I received
required.
2 names. I'm sorry?
It's required, correct?
It's required. Yeah. I mean, it really is required. Mr. Hadwin had given me 2 names, and Mr. Savino gave me one, but I have not heard from the rest of you. You know these people that you are wanting or think are good to, serve on these boards. I'm asking you to go talk to them and make sure that this is something they want to do. If they do, then we come back at the next meeting and we nominate them, and you guys make your decision as to whom you're going to seat. And then I'll take over and make sure that they're trained and that kind of thing, and we can get started with this. It's going to take a while for them to get their feet wet. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, and you know that. So I'm trying to be proactive right now and get this done.
Ms. Miller, if I may ask one quick question before we open up for discussion. I thought that I'd emailed you a few, but evidently I have not. I'm going to check back through. But my question is, how many people are needed for this board?
5.
5. Okay. I just want to make sure I hadn't looked back at it. And that was the question I had for tonight. All right. How many do we have currently? 2?
Well, I've got 2 names from Mr. Hadwin, one for historical board and one for planning board. I think we need to hold off on this historical board right now. That's my opinion, but it's up to y'all. But we do need to do a planning board. That's absolute. And I've got one name from Mr. Savino for the planning commission.
Okay, so council, I mean, we can have a discussion on this, but I think that by our next meeting, actually, I think that everyone could take a little bit of time and let's think about it and try to encompass people from across this town, different sectors that are good representatives, and we've got people that are in positions like with zoning. So we need to consider other people and come up with a list. And it'd be better to have 10 and have 5 and have 5 on deck, for the next go round. I'm not saying we need 10, Ms. Miller.
Yeah, no, I know, I got you.
Have 10 people to choose. Let's really think about this, because this is something that is of the utmost importance for moving forward with town progress. So let's try to hold each other to that, and to have something to Ms. Miller via email or text or a phone call and say, look, here's who I'm thinking within the next week, 10 days, 2 weeks. Would that work, Ms. Miller?
That would be great. I just wanted to add, being on a planning board is a little bit different. You need to be able to look at site plans. You need to be able to look at drawings and that kind of thing when development comes to you. And if someone that has that experience, is something that would be a complete absolute plus. Knowing how to look at a site plan and how to look at a development plan is something that's very important. And it's not easy to teach. So keep that in the back of your mind at the same time. So I'm leaving it at that.
I'd like to, just one thing, these are not my words. I wish I'd have come up with them, but I heard this from someone who I highly respected and regarded as a good friend, especially up here in Luray, being right here next to my family's farm, is Mr. Burton Johnson, former county councilman. And it was on planning. And he said, if you're not planning 20 years, you're not looking ahead 20 years into the future and planning for the future, when things happen, you'll be 10 years behind. And I think that is a very, very true statement. And we don't want to be left behind. And this is just another step for us to move forward. Any discussion to my left, Mr. Savino?
Be super brief on this. One thing that as we start to see these boards, one thing that other municipalities do, they take, instead of 5 names, they'll go ahead and take 8 or 10 names. And what they do is they just build their bench strength. And then each year they kind of do basically an open enrollment for boards thing. So here they'll put it out, January, February, pick a month, and they'll look for people willing to fill out an application or be recommended to sit on the board. So that way they keep a list of 5 or 6 or 3 or 9 people that in the event somebody falls off the board or can't continue to do it, they've got someone in backup. So it's just, it's a recipe that other municipalities use, and just to throw that out there as we kind of get kicked off in this.
Mr. Mayor, one
Miller,
more thing.
I saw your hand.
I'm sorry, one more thing. Normally, a member of the council is appointed to that planning commission. They don't have a voting power, but they're there, and they then report back to the council as to what's been going on. So keep that in mind too, whom out of the council would be willing to serve on that board as, an ex officio board member, so to speak, so that they can be involved in the conversations, but they can't vote. Just wanted to bring that one up too.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Bolden, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Councilman Hadwin,
No, sir.
Councilwoman Solomons.
No, sir.
All right. Well, we will, let's all hold each other to this and work towards seating this board to move the town forward. We'll move on to item G. Public comment. Do we have any public comments that have come in?
No, sir.
Ms. Miller? All right.
No, sir.
Public comment. I will, before we adjourn, as I always do, Mr. Savino, Councilman Savino, do you have anything to bring before council before we close this evening?
One thing I'd say is for us, as we as elected officials, and then as much as we can as a town, but DHEC has got a website that they've put out to let people know over the age, I think, of 70 or 75, where they can go get a COVID-19 vaccination. And I believe that opened up Wednesday of this week. So as much as we can to tell anybody that we know that's over 70, that they can go and do this, and as much as we can as a town to let folks know that they can go do this, I think it'd be a good thing for us to let people know that. But DHEC right now is the one that's running the website, and they go to, I think, dhec.com or something like that to find out information about it. That's it.
scdhec.com. Councilwoman Bolden.
Mr. Marty, I'm glad that you're feeling much better, and I hope you continue to do well.
Thank you.
For everyone else, stay safe. And I'll be checking on everyone to make sure everyone is safe. That's all
Yes,
I have.
ma'am. Thank you. Councilman Howard?
I just encourage everyone to remain safe, still practice safe procedures, um, just to try to keep this virus at a minimum as possible with the numbers going up. Once again, Miss Marty, I'm glad you're doing well, you and your wife. Miss Bolden, I'm glad everyone in your family is doing much better. And I want to once again thank everyone that reached out to my mother and myself during our little debacle with COVID. Thank God it wasn't as worse as some people have experienced, but I can promise you, I don't want to have to deal with it. The hardest thing for me is not being able to be around my mother. And if anybody you miss is your mother when you can't get to them. So my mother is dear to my heart, and it's been a task. And I just thank everyone for checking in on us, and the citizens, please, please, please take this serious. It's out there. None of us are immune to it, and there's another strand out there that's twice as contagious, easy to catch. So be safe, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Mayor Pro Tem Solomon?
Yes, I would just like to add on, like everyone has, to remain using social distancing, keeping your hands washed, and not big gatherings, staying safe, and just so glad to see everyone. Again, Mr. Martin, I'm so glad to see you are doing well. Council having you and your mother, I'm so glad that everything turned out well for you all. Just asking all of us to try to remain safe.
Thank you, Ms. Solomons.
Mayor, excuse me, I'm sorry. And also Council Bowling family. I'm so glad that they're all doing much better.
Thank you, ma'am. I echo all of the
Mayor, I
words
think
that, Mr. Mars, you have something to
I just
say?
appreciate everyone's well wishes. I appreciate your prayers. You don't know what we're all in this together means until everybody gets sick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's a very, very good point. We are all in this together. I have to echo a lot of the words of the council members. We need to try to stay safe. We need to look out for those who depend on others to take care of them, that aren't seeing others, the elderly, and the people with disabilities. To the town, we're here to serve y'all. You elected us to do that, and we're doing our best doing something this world's never seen, this country's never seen. Councilwoman Bolden, I'm glad to know that all your family is doing better. Mr. Havlin, I'm glad to know your mother's doing better as well. We need to keep our town, our state, our country, and this world in our prayers. I think that's the strongest thing that we can do because we are facing a time that we've never seen. But it's all in the Lord's hands. So with that, I thank everyone for your service. And thank all the employees of the town for the hard work they do every day. And all of our first responders and our administration staff as well. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Everyone, hope you have a wonderful evening. And